Now there's two different effects that can take place depending on the narrative which is overarching you, or overarching the specific person, or overarching the specific action, or overarching the specific thing that's going on. Now, this narrative can either give the action or the person the halo effect or the horn effect. The halo effect is they're going to essentially see everything about you as fantastic because your umbrella narrative, the narrative which overarches you, is absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. It allows your specific traits to be seen in the best possible light. It's why somebody like a Rod Wave can get all of this different fucking female attention. Everybody loves this nigga. Everybody's going to think him to be fantastic. He can essentially get away with far more than the average person because the narrative which encompasses who he is allows for that. That's why he can get away with being 5'8", 400 pounds. He put the Air Forces on, the motherfuckers go automatically crease like he's been wearing them for 4 years. As soon as he puts them on, like, I'm not making fun of him either. It's the reason why somebody like Kanye West, my GOAT, can just get away with anything because his narrative allows his parameters to be so damn wide that you can't even see where they end. And when I say parameters, I mean normal people have very rigid parameters. If you fuck up in one way, people are just going to be like, oh, this sucks, fuck this nigga, and just discard you, maybe ostracize you from something. But if you're somebody like a Kanye West who has such a substantial narrative that surrounds him, he's able to essentially have the halo effect to where he's going to have people who are going to ride with him no matter what the fuck he says, thinks, or does. You know, he earned that. He earned that narrative. He earned those parameters. But most people have to live between very rigid parameters, which is why cancel culture is a thing in itself. That's why the baby got cooked as soon as he just said he said one sentence and he lost everything because his parameters weren't wide enough. Because he was getting embraced by the industry, if you catch my drift. So he was essentially being propped up or held up by corporations and big banners behind him, which allowed his music to hit the mainstream. But somebody like Kanye West really just garnered a fucking wide ass fan base. He did that shit off the muscle himself. He had entirely different fan bases. He had different labels that he was on. He's been canceled like 30 times. So his narrative allowed for him to be able to deviate to such a wide degree from being a Neo, you know what I mean, or all of this other goofy shit. He's able to pull this off because his narrative allows that to be the case. But somebody like DaBaby is going to be very cooked if they even do a fraction of what Kanye West did because his narrative did not allow him to do it, respectfully. And you know what? The thing is, we're the people who are in charge of creating our own narratives, which allows us to essentially do whatever the hell we want to do from a societal standpoint. Now, the good news is this. We don't actually need to care about anybody's opinion. So anybody watching this has free will. We can do whatever the fuck we want to. There's lines that they say that we can't cross, but them things are entirely invisible and they aren't anywhere in the fucking physical. They simply exist in everybody's mind, but you can simply just walk over those lines like somebody like Kanye West or Ye is doing, and you can get away with it. But if you want people to still see you in a positive light, you'll have to build a narrative which allows your traits to shine regardless of what you do. And that's something that a DaBaby didn't do. That's why he got cooked. That's why every other person who got canceled got cooked. It's why somebody like DDG is going to stay alive, because his narrative has been very consistent for the last 10 years and everybody has already seen what kind of person that he was because he's vlogged this entire damn life. His narrative is pretty much just stuck in stone. The only people that'll likely reject him are some goofy ass industry people who don't really even know him in the first place and who probably just found out about him about 2 months ago. So he won't really ever lose his core fan base, but he might lose the mainstream industry plant Doichi type of people, if you catch my drift. I know this is pretty much unemployed conversation and unemployed talk, but I'm using these references so y'all people can understand. But basically, our actions are going to be interpreted entirely different based on the narrative which encompasses what we're doing. Let's just think about this logically for a second. There's no specific action which is inherently bad or good. Think about it. If somebody punches somebody in the face, what's going to make that specific action good or bad? The narrative behind it. If you found out that this person punched this nigga in the face to protect some little nigga that was getting bullied, let's say some random dude just walked up and just said, just smacked the nigga ice cream cone down, some kid. And then somebody just walks up and says, hey, you know, knocks him out. That person might be seen as the hero because he just helped out a kid. But let's say that person punched the dude for another reason. He was trying to rob him. Let's say he punched him to get him off balance, then he just stole his wallet or some goofy shit. Then this person might be seen as the villain. So the hero and the villain are created based on the narratives which encompass the specific action that's being taken place. The same thing is true based on our specific traits, what we do and how we do it, and the behaviors that we exude. So basically, we're not going to be good, bad, great, fantastic, or absolutely dog shit unless we have a narrative which allows those specific labels to be realized. So a DDG, so a Solomonati cannot be canceled. But let's just say that somebody like a Kai Cenat just got canceled someday. Let's say that like Kai Cenat went through what DDG's going through. He might be absolutely deep fried because he's now kind of interlocked with the mainstream in a way. But a Nice Show Speed, who is just a universal fucking figure at this point, who's just not even just tied to one country. He can do some bullshit. He can get canceled for something that he did in the past and just hop right over it and nobody will remember it because he's now built a narrative which allows him to do a whole whole bunch of different goofy shit. The last thing you want to be in life at this point in the big 25 is somebody who's living behind some fucking narrative that makes them live within these very rigid parameters, which won't allow them to actually be themselves, express themselves, basically causing somebody to be afraid of being canceled. And the worst part is that many of us already have to live behind this bullshit. Like, let's just think about a specific characteristic that somebody can have. Let's say somebody just has like a fucking scar on their face. Somebody might just see the random scar and just be like, yeah, that big ass scar, this shit look hella goofy. But let's say that you found out the scar had a narrative behind it. Let's say that nigga saved a bunch of kids in a burning building and then he was paid like $5 million afterwards. Then that scar is gonna probably be the best thing about that person, because it's gonna be a signal which tells you what he's been through. And from seeing that signal, you'll see the narrative about what he's been through, what kind of person he is, and the status that he now has. So that specific scar in this different context with this different narrative is gonna allow this person to shine. So it's about understanding the specific context that you're in, curating a narrative which allows your specific traits to shine, and then it'll be viewed however you want them to be viewed. So narratives allow specific actions that are taken by a specific person to be seen as either fantastic or weird or any other fucking way. It's the reason why somebody like a Michael Jackson or a Prince was able to be overtly zesty. It's the reason why a Playboy Cardi was able to wear a fucking thong, crop top, all of this goofy shit, because his narrative allowed what he was doing to be perceived as cool or different or edgy or just flamboyant or swaggy. Let's say some random dude from Atlanta pulled that off, you're gonna be like, bro, you are a TOS boy. So it's not particularly about what you do, what you have, who you are. It's how you use all of these different things to curate the world in which you want to be perceived. You're the person who's going to signal all of these different things to the audience. And if, let's say, you want to present something to the audience and you want to signal a specific thing, you're basically just going to use all of these different things as props to signal the narrative that you want to be signaled. Now, one thing that humans hate more than fucking anything are fraudulent individuals. That's why once you perceive somebody to be fantastic and they deviate in a negative way from the ideal version that you had of them in your head, bro, you're gonna get the fucking aura ick from this person, basically. They're gonna lose all of the aura that they had, and you're just gonna basically just begin to hate that nigga. It's like in 2015, when people saw that Drake didn't write a lot of them songs, they were like, bro, Drake is an absolute fraud. It's like we all heard every single Playboy Cardi album, right? And then we were like, yo, this nigga's crazy. He got the craziest flows. And then you found out that some random dude just wrote all of his songs and that he never made any of the songs and that he was just using AI generated voice the entire fucking time. You're gonna get pissed off and you're gonna view this person as a fraud because he broke your gestalt. Humans love to feel as if they know what kind of person somebody is. And if they deviate negatively from the ideal version of who they thought that person to be, they're going to be absolutely pissed off. It's why girls get the ick once you do some shit which is not in character, if you catch my drift, in a negative way. That's why people get mad at you for different reasons and they get mad at others. They say some shit like, yo, that's not like you. Is it not like me? I did the shit. How the fuck is it not like me? I'm doing whatever the fuck I needed to do. I have free will and I did something. But it's not about the fact that you did it. It's the fact that they had a certain narrative of who you were in their head, and once you deviated from that narrative, they got pissed off because you're not the person that they thought you to be. Humans naturally hate once our pattern gets broken. It's why if you heard somebody playing the piano, right, and then they just fuck up and it just it just makes you feel like uncomfortable in a way. It's like if somebody's playing the guitar, hitting every single chord right, it just fucks up. The thing flies off and everybody's like, it's like music that sounds fucked up. Because in order for the song to sound good in our heads, we need these fragments of different sounds to work in synergy to allow each other to shine, if you catch my drift. They have to work in a specific pattern which allows us to enjoy it. But then once niggas fuck up the beat, you're like, bro, what? That's what happens when somebody projects an ideal onto you that you don't live up to, or you deviate from in a negative way. The exact same damn thing, bro. People who create movies understand this shit down to a fucking T, which is why what they do is they give you something exciting in the beginning to pull you in. That's the hook. They try to let you know a little bit about the character so you can get an attachment to that character. You get attached, you're like, oh, okay. You project an ideal onto the character. And as the story goes on, the character either realizes your ideal in a good way or deviates from it in a bad way, which gives you a shocking twist. Both of these things can work. The thing is, you just can't either be a worse version of the character in which you thought that they were fucking fraud, or just the exact version of who you thought that they were. Like just the exact same version. Because what's going to happen is they're going to be too predictable. Thus, you're not going to feel any emotional stakes because they can't surprise you. So the goal is to use the 3% rule. You hold on to about 97% of the ideal, and then you deviate from the ideal in a positive way and make the ideal your own. That's the 3% rule. Once you deviate from the ideal, you essentially add that level of mystery while simultaneously having that anchor, which is the ideal. You have the anchor, which is the ideal. You have the deviation, which is the 3% rule, and that keeps mystery mystery always being there, which means that somebody won't ever be bored of the character of who you are, if you catch my drift. It's why a fucking Goku can simply just do the exact same shit for about 50 years, because we know who he is, but he surprises us about 3% of the time. And those surprises keeps us hooked, and we also love the ideal version of who the character is. We love the character and we love the surprises. You can't be too predictable, but you also just can't be fully shrewded in unfucking certainty. You need to, at the very least, give somebody signals or something so that they can project an ideal onto you, so that they know something about you. They want to know something about the character so that they can get attached to the character, but not know everything, so that they can still have the mystery of being surprised. So you fill in just enough gaps so that they can believe. Our entire fucking lives are dictated by narratives. We either hop over the narratives or we stand behind them, and the vast majority of the people who are going to exist on this earth will always hide behind the narratives which rule their times, which are entirely arbitrary most of the damn time. Think about this shit, bro. When a girl says I'm in my whole era, or if a guy says I'm in my grind era, basically what the girl is doing is embodying a certain mode of being, that being a whole, you know, fucking promiscuous behavior, getting clapped by a whole bunch of niggas, going on hella dates with niggas, DMing hella niggas, getting cracked by hella niggas on Tinder, all of this hella goofy shit, drunk every single night, Tito's, Henny, just going absolutely insane, bunch of niggas, different niggas, night to night, just lying, just pure ongoing, and embodying this certain mode of being because they feel comfortable living under that narrative. The fact is, about 15 to 30 years ago, bro, I wasn't there, but I heard that this sort of narrative cannot exist in. But the fact that it exists today, it means that it's socially validated enough to where people can now feel comfortable embodying that certain mode of being under the banner of that narrative. They feel safe under the narrative because they know it's socially validated in a way. It's why people say I'm in my grind era or I'm in this era. They're basically just falling into a narrative which already is socially validated on a wide scale. People don't even feel comfortable doing certain things unless it's under a narrative which is socially validated. It's why sometimes you'll be with somebody and they'll say some shit like, we can't do this unless I'm your girlfriend. Now, that's kind of an arbitrary fucking term, because regardless of whether or not you had that term, you're still going to embody that certain mode of being if you're going to embody that certain mode of being. But the fact is, they only feel comfortable doing so under the banner of that narrative. So the narrative basically allows them to essentially be free. So they're basically living behind invisible lines that they can easily just jump over, but they only feel comfortable behind the line, so people choose to stay in. That's what a lot of people call the damn matrix. So you can choose either to exist within these lines, because in all honesty, you won't really get much pushback if you do. But those who decide they want to change things, people who change things in their own time periods, are going to be the people who hopped over those lines and just entirely fucking disregarded them, many times at their own expense. But the only way to innovation or to a new place would be to disregard some of those damn lines. Now, sometimes the lines are good, but you have to be able to see outside of the lines to dictate whether or not they're good or not, and not just simply see the lines and just jump in between them and just simply just stay there because you're afraid to deviate outside of them, if you catch my drift. This is why, like, your parents say you need to be a doctor, or you need to be this, you need to be that, because that narrative, that label is socially validated on a massive scale. They know that if you're able to live under the banner of that label, one, their friends or their family members are going to look at them as being good parents, or look at them as being people who did a good job, and basically look at you as if, you know, you're safe. They seek your safety. They know that narrative, that label is safe, so they want you to be the safest as possible and to just shine and just be happy, if you catch my drift. So they feel safe with that label. They feel safe with that banner. Had they had to deviate outside of the banner, who the fuck knows what'll happen? That's when you're shrouded in uncertainty. That's when you're shrouded in chaos in a way. You don't know where the fuck you're gonna go. But that place right there outside of those labels are gonna be the places where the extremes are taking place. You're never gonna truly live an extremely bad or extremely fantastic life if you're stuck in between those labels. But you can have a really good life, or you can have a pretty bad life. The extremes exist outside of the labels, if you catch my drift. People whose lives that you tell stories about are going to be the people who exist on those extremes most likely. And those are going to be outside of those specific labels which have those high levels of social proof. And most people, if you try to deviate outside of those labels or outside of those parameters, are going to probably be on the negative side. But the possibility does exist for the few who get there to live the absolutely fantastic lives. Now, my thing is this. I just look at it logically like this. If I have one life, why would my desire be to preserve something that's going to end? Like, it's pretty much like the Usogi philosophy, basically. Life itself is already a gamble where everybody is going to lose in the end, as we already are going to fucking die. We're going to die no matter what we do. So why would the aim of my life be to preserve everything that I have on a ship that's going to go towards its demise in the end? Why would my life be based on simply just preserving what I have when I know for a fact that it's going to end? Why would it not be predicated upon getting more, helping others, and just doing as much as I could, helping as many people as possible, and living on the extremes, rather than just trying to live within these safe parameters when I'm already going to die in the end? But the fact that it does have an ending allows certain people to shine while they're here. We're essentially like some shooting stars, because a shooting star is only fantastic because we rarely ever see it. We see one of them just pop up and it just stops. You know, it had this run, it was absolutely fantastic and it reached the heavens. But if we just always saw shooting stars at every moment, they wouldn't be that great anymore. Same thing with fireworks, same thing with anything that burns out fast but has a bright ass shine to it. Your parents want the safest and the best possible life for you in between those parameters, which allows you to be safe. That's why they say follow the college route, follow the regular job route, follow the doctor route, follow this or that route, which are absolutely fantastic, don't get me wrong. And they'll always warn against you taking that difficult route outside of those parameters, route that you most likely will fail on, because they care about your safety. But my thing is this, they're supposed to think that way because their job your entire life was to protect you and keep you safe and to keep you on a path which will allow you to be safe and just live a good life. But for somebody who has their own free will, for somebody who is living with a first person perspective, for somebody who knows that at some point the end is going to come, why would the main focus of your life be to preserve it and not to do as much as you possibly could while you're in it, not to help others out, do what you truly want to do, if you catch my drift? Not saying be some fucking big ass degenerate, but I'm saying why not be the person that you truly dream of being, the person that you daydream of being? The preservation mindset will not ever allow you to truly grow in life. At best, you would just be above average. It's why you try to grab at something as hard as you possibly could to preserve it. It's ultimately just going to slip through your fingers like water. You try to grab water with both hands, the motherfucker's just going to slip straight through. I think that's symbolic for life itself, bro. Only on the road aiming for more will you ever even keep the things that's with you in the first place, because those things are going to want to come where you're going because it's rooted in mystery, you know? It's a level of uncertainty, but it's seen positively because in order for you to get to certain places, certain stopping points, certain goals, you'll have to become special along that journey anyways. And as you become more special, more people are going to want to join you also, and things are going to start staying without you even having to try to keep them there. That's why at the bottom, everything is so hard to preserve, because the things that you're trying to preserve don't truly want to stay there. If you just let go of what you were trying to preserve while you're at the bottom, it likely would just run the fuck away. That's why you focus on the actual purpose, you focus on the journey, keep going up, keep getting better, and shit, the things that you want to preserve in the first place likely would just follow you up there anyways. Like, you'll be okay. Most people are basically just looking for the easiest answers possible for a ground that's solid. If people didn't have faith that the ground under them was solid, they'd be too scared to take a fucking step. So for most people, that solid ground is going to be what they want to walk on. That's why quick assumptions, quick stereotypes, quick archetypes, quick narratives from small fragments signaling a higher narrative is going to be what the human mind is going to be easily oriented towards, because that ensured our protection for thousands of fucking years. It's also why you and most people probably watching this seek the most simple answers possible. They hate nuance. That's why their answer has to be the correct answer, and the people who disagree with them are likely just demonic or just these evil people. Everybody's evil on this side and everybody's good on this side. There just can't be this substantial degree of nuance, which damn near always fucking exist on each side, because humans seek solid ground to walk on. Humans just want to walk forward, if you catch my drift. They don't want to be puzzled by the complexity around them, bro. They don't want to look around and just be like, fuck, what do I do? That hurts a lot of people. That's why most people would rather not be alone with their own thoughts and just go out and just keep experiencing life and run away from their own thoughts rather than facing them because of that high degree of complexity. Or they'll just latch on to somebody who's a perceived authority so that they can take the role of being the person who's thinking for them. That's why they need those thought leaders, if you catch my drift, because those people simplify life enough and give them a role to follow, because that's truly what they want in the first place. Had they not had that role, they'd have to create their own one or live in high degree of chaos, and they're uncomfortable with doing that. So like, I know a lot of y'all call those people NPCs, but from their perspective, I mean, they're basically just trying to live the easiest life possible. Like, the world is a terrible place. Those simple type of narratives are always going to run society because of what they imply, if you catch my drift. If you just simply say the world is dangerous or the world is bad, that allows you to simplify all the complexity, all of the good, all of the bad, all of the gray, all into one small rigid ass narrative, which will allow you to move forward and essentially protect yourself from what could be. You're adopting that simple point of view because that allows you to treat the world or to navigate the world in a way which is sure of itself, if you catch my drift. You can basically be sure that the ground that you walk on is solid and you know where to go now. You can just navigate the world with this simple ass rigid narrative, such as the world is a terrible place. Let's say you just took on nuance and you basically just saw everything in its entirety. You'd be puzzled by everything around you and you might not walk the same way. But if you can then become the person who's still able to walk forward while still acknowledging the complexity in the universe, you don't know where you can go. You don't know what kind of idea you can get. You might be a crazy ass innovator. You might be somebody that's particularly special, and you might be the person who's able to help others who has to deal with these complex ass issues in the first place. Not only this, sharing a simple narrative allows you to essentially group together with people, if you catch my drift. It allows you to be a part of a group, because most people are obviously going to be a part of more simplified narratives of a complex universe or a complex situation or a complex belief system. Sharing the same narrative of somebody else allows you to essentially be a part of that group. So some people will just ignore some of the things that they see around them to just fall in line with the group that they want to be a part of. So that's willful blindness in a way, you know, cognitive dissonance. Many of us will take this disposition just to join a part of a group, because if we acknowledge the complexity, if we acknowledge nuance, that kind of separates us from the group in a way and kind of leaves us feeling left behind or too far ahead or somewhere outside of the circle that everybody else is in. That's a lot of people's point of view, but mine is more so like, if you're able to acknowledge all the nuance, you're kind of connected with everybody in a way. You're just never going to be on the exact same playing field as everybody else, because you're not going to abide by the same rules, narratives, or nigga move. My thing is, I think having nuance and just acknowledging the complexity allows you to essentially hold hands with everybody in a way. You're just never going to be on the exact same playing field as another person or as everybody else, because they're abiding by simple narratives while you're acknowledging the complexity around you, and it orients you towards the truth, which may leave you feeling isolated if you take that perspective. But I say it kind of joins you together with everybody in a way. You're just not going to share the same belief as everybody else, but you can still walk together with those people as you're able to now understand where those people are coming from. You don't have to demonize either side, so you can understand both sides and just move forward without having to have any hatred. I think hatred and contempt both just comes from just the most simplified narratives possible. If you just simplify somebody else and just say that they're just the embodiment of a negative stereotype, the embodiment of a negative archetype, these people are inherently evil, these people are bad, the most simplified narratives possible allow you to essentially demonize somebody else. And it also allows you to protect your ego in a way, because if you don't allow yourself to see these people in this fucking simplified way, then you're going to have to treat every individual differently. You're going to have to actually see what people are talking about. You're going to have to actually acknowledge that you might be wrong. You're going to actually have to acknowledge that the other side's point of view might be better than yours in certain facets. You might have to actually acknowledge that you might not be right in every fucking instance. You might have to acknowledge that the thought leaders that you look up to aren't always right, and that the thought leaders on the other side might be just fucking as smart, and that maybe both sides are wrong also. You might just have to deal with the complexity and navigate the world while acknowledging that you don't know everything. You don't have to just be full-on Socrates like some goofy nigga, but what you could do is just learn as you go along and not have to just simplify everything into its most rigid version of itself. I think hatred just stems from just viewing people in their most simplified forms. Let's say, oh, this person's a this or this person's a that, not acknowledging how that person became like that in the first place, not acknowledging why that person did it, but taking the most simplified narrative so you can just easily put that person in a certain category in your head, so you don't have to actually process what that person truly is. You can essentially just walk right by him. Oh, this person's to this person's to that, this person's to this person's to that. I'm not sure if y'all have noticed this, but the people who have those beliefs that like all men are this or all bitches are this, these bitches, all these girls are all this, you know, those people sound hella confident, and those people can essentially walk fast as shit symbolically, because they've then categorized everybody into simple narratives and that the world is just a simple place. And by believing that, it allows them to move forward fast. Also, my other issue with simple categories gives people the illusion of choice in a way. If you give somebody two pathways and say, hey, choose where you want to go, did they really make the choice, or did you just simply give them two choices that they could possibly make, and they just took the road that they found the most favorable out of the two? But did they really choose for themselves, or did somebody already choose the road that they mapped out for them, and they just chose that mapped out version or that mapped out road and believed themselves to be entirely free while not having the freedom to take this road, this road, this road, this road, this road, this road, but only the two rigid roads out there in front of them, so they can look at these two different roads as if they're the only ways to a specific place, if you catch my drift. That's giving somebody the illusion of choice. The entire premise of this entire video, if you take anything away from it, take this last message. No matter what traits you have, no matter what characteristics you have, no matter what kind of behaviors you exude, no matter what weird dispositions that you have, no matter what weird beliefs you have, the narratives behind everything is going to dictate whether or not it's going to be perceived as either good or bad in the first place. So it's essentially based on how you curate these specific things and the synergy between all of these different things, which would allow the trait to be seen as fantastic or not. It's like a key on the piano. That key on its own is never going to truly bring an audience to like the song, if you catch my drift. A song can't be made with one simple key. The song is only going to be made with a bunch of different keys in the right synergy. Your traits, characteristics, behaviors, etc., everything else are essentially just keys of a piano, and the synergy between them is how good you are at playing the piano. That's your curation. Or another example is, let's say we're fucking chemists and we're just fucking Michael Faraday or some goofy shit. We use a bunch of different chemicals, and the chemical reaction is the whole. That's who we are. We use a whole bunch of different chemicals, and the chemical reaction is then going to become who we are in the first place, but it's based on how we put these different things together. We're the architects in our own story. We're the architects. We just have to learn how to build our own stories in the minds of others in the first place. And don't think that anything that you have is inherently good or bad, or that you're just this eternal 7 or this eternal 10 or this eternal 0. It keeps you on your fucking toes, but it teaches you a simple lesson that you're not ever going to be stuck at any specific rating. No man has a fixed rating. There's no such thing as a fucking 0 out of 10, 10 out of 10, any of this goofy shit. Looks maxing is goofy as fuck. Even if it was true, there's about 100 to 1,000 different other factors involved, which will essentially make the effects of this shit minute or huge, depending on the specific traits, characteristics, and behaviors which surround that specific thing in the first place. I hope y'all are getting what I'm saying. I'm saying the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Never be jealous of another person. Just figure out how you can use what you have to curate the world that you want to be perceived by the external. You don't buy the iPhone for the camera itself. The iPhone camera on its own accord is kind of goofy. Every single Sony camera, every single Canon, every single whatever is way better than this camera right here. But the fact is, this camera becomes amazing when you couple it with a bright ass LED screen, with a bunch of different apps, with the cellular data, which allows you to call niggas, text people, get on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you're able to film TikToks with this shit. So it's the entire whole which allows these specific things which might not actually shine on their own to be brighter than anything around it. iPhone is bought way more than any specific Sony camera. It's bought way more than any LED screen. It's bought more than anything else that competes with any specific thing that it has, even though its flashlight isn't as good as the best flashlights. Its camera isn't as good as the best cameras. Its LED screen isn't bigger or as good as the best LED screens. The microphone on it is fucking ass. The AI Siri is absolutely booty crack. But the fact that the whole is fantastic once you put everything together allows every single aspect of this thing to shine. You're the same way and your traits are the exact same way. So don't ever think that anything that you were born with, or any disposition that you have, or any characteristic that you have, all of these psychological tendencies that you have, none of these things are inherently bad. If the result is bad, or if you receive bad feedback externally, that means that the way that you're exuding them or curating them to the public is bad, but not the specific thing itself. So lose all insecurities immediately, bro. So all the short niggas, tall niggas, big niggas, small niggas, fat niggas, rat niggas, goofy niggas, missing toothy niggas, y'all are going to be okay if you learn how to curate the world in which allows your specific trait, characteristic, or anything about you to shine, bruh. Also this, bro, never worry about statistics, rules, because those things are only going to ever apply to the people who exist on the slightly below average to above average tip. Those who live on the extremes aren't dictated by any rules, parameters, or stats that these people here are dictated by. And the thing is, these people on the entire spectrum, none of these people are inherently better than the other. There are stupid people up here, there are geniuses down here. The only thing is that the people up here simply curated a world which allowed their specific trait to shine bright and allowed that specific trait and the whole to be seen as fantastic. Simply put, you're just able to do one or the other, more so on average depending on the trait that you have. But specifically you watching this, no matter what fucking trait you have, you're able to exist on these extremes. And from an objective standpoint, nobody on this spectrum is better than the other. But the only people who are truly dictated by the rules are going to be the people who abide by the fucking rules, or abide by the statistical standards or the statistical tendencies or anything that has to do with that. I'm not ever going to brag about anything that I've done in my life because I find it fucking goofy as shit. I'll just tell you, bro. Once I learned how to signal certain things, I've gotten the results of people who existed on the extremes. And I realized there was no difference between me here or there. The simple fact is I learned how to signal the correct thing so the people who saw me or perceived me simply perceived an extreme. There's an extreme version of every single type of person. But regardless of whatever group you fall into, bro, there's an extreme version of you out there, or you can invent it yourself using different signals. There's no fucking philosophical constraint which is not allowing you to do so. Therefore, if you simply don't do so, you just failed based on your own competence. And don't worry about whether or not you could do it. Fuck the ego shit. You can do it because it's literally possible for you to do it. There's no physical law constraining you from being able to pull this shit off in the first place. You can literally pull it off. And if you did pull it off, you already pulled it off and you're the person who pulled it off. Our experience of time itself is purely based on emotion, but the past, present, and future already exist at the exact same time. But our experience of it is predicated upon our motion on this third dimensional fucking plane. Therefore, if you did do it already, you're the person who did it. And everybody here can do it. So I just say, if you're watching this, assume you've already done it and become the person that you already know you are.